It was a chilly evening, the kind where the wind cuts through even the thickest coats and leaves a lingering shiver in anyone caught outside for too long. She had just settled into her quiet night, a cup of tea in hand and the soft hum of the heater in the background, when a sudden movement outside caught her attention. At first, she thought it was just a trick of the shadows, a passerby walking quickly down the street, but then she saw him, alone, hunched over, shivering in the dim light of the porch lamp. There was something about the sight that stopped her in her tracks. He wasn't just cold, he looked vulnerable, exposed to the elements in a way that made her heart tighten. His coat, thin and clearly insufficient for the dropping temperature, did little to shield him from the biting wind. She could see his breath forming small clouds in the air, each exhale a visible reminder of the chill surrounding him. It wasn't just the cold, it was the way he seemed out of place, almost fragile, as if the world had suddenly become too much for him in that moment. Compelled by a mixture of concern and curiosity, she opened the door, the warmth from inside spilling out for a moment before being swallowed by the night air. He looked up then, startled, his eyes wide with a mixture of surprise and embarrassment. There was a hesitation in his expression, a silent acknowledgement that he hadn't expected anyone to notice him, or perhaps, anyone to care. Without thinking, she stepped forward, offering the blanket she had draped over the back of her chair earlier. Her voice was soft, but firm, cutting through the cold night. "Here, take this. You're freezing." He accepted it reluctantly at first, shivering as he wrapped it around his shoulders, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. In that instant, a silent understanding passed between them, an unspoken connection sparked by vulnerability and compassion. She noticed the subtle tremble in his hands, the way his lips were slightly blue, and the fatigue that seemed to hang in his posture. It was more than just cold, he seemed drained by something deeper, and though she didn't know his story yet, a protective instinct surged within her. The night felt unusually still, as if the world had paused to hold this quiet, fleeting encounter. Time seemed to stretch as she offered him a warm drink and watched him try to regain some warmth, his gratitude unspoken but clear in the gentle way his eyes softened. It was a small moment, almost ordinary on the surface, yet beneath it lay the beginnings of something profound, a chance encounter that neither of them would forget, a spark ignited in the most unexpected circumstances. That night, as she watched him walk away eventually, her mind lingered on the image of him shivering outside her door. Little did she know, this brief, fragile moment would set the stage for a story neither of them could have imagined, a story that would return to her life in ways she hadn't yet begun to anticipate. Days passed since that cold night when she found him shivering outside her door. Yet, the image of him, the vulnerability in his eyes, the quiet strength beneath his shivers, lingered in her mind. She often wondered why fate had placed him there, why she had felt such an instant pull to help someone she barely knew. And then, just when she least expected it, he returned. This time, he didn't appear in the chill of the evening or on the fringes of her street. He came with purpose, a determination in his stride that made her heart race the moment she saw him. Gone was the shivering, vulnerable figure from that night. In his place was someone who carried both courage and a quiet confidence, yet the same warmth in his eyes remained, the warmth that had first made her pause, that had first made her offer him a blanket. He approached her doorstep with a small, neatly wrapped box in his hands. There was a nervous energy about him, subtle but palpable, the kind that makes a person simultaneously compelling and relatable. As he stopped before her, her curiosity and anticipation swelled. His voice, calm yet slightly trembling, cut through the air. "I came back for something important." The simplicity of his words belied the gravity of the moment. Time seemed to slow as he handed her the box, the world fading around them. She could feel the electricity of expectation, the quiet thrill of knowing that something life-changing was about to unfold. The weight of the box in her hands mirrored the weight of the moment itself, small, unassuming, yet capable of altering everything. He took a deep breath, and she noticed a flicker of vulnerability, reminiscent of that first night. It was the same man, but transformed, the man who had once needed her warmth now stood before her ready to share his heart. "I've thought about you every day since that night," he said, and I realized. I don't want to imagine my life without you. Her breath caught. She could see the sincerity in his gaze, the unwavering honesty that spoke louder than words ever could. Slowly, carefully, he opened the box, revealing a delicate ring that sparkled faintly in the fading light. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of intention, of promises yet to be made, of a future that could be theirs together. For a moment, she was speechless. Emotions swirled inside her, surprise, disbelief, joy, and a profound sense of connection that seemed to have grown silently between them since that first encounter. She realized that the man who had appeared helpless and cold outside her door had returned not as someone asking for help, but as someone offering his heart entirely. He knelt, the world around them still and quiet, and asked the question that would change everything: "Will you marry me?" It was not just a proposal, it was the culmination of a journey neither of them had expected, a journey that began with a simple act of kindness and had blossomed into love. In that instant, everything from that first night, the shivers, the cold, the uncertainty, made perfect sense. Sometimes, life's most unexpected encounters lead to its most beautiful moments, and sometimes, love waits just outside your door, shivering, until the right moment to ask to stay forever. After that night of shivering, the warmth of his return, and the proposal that had left her breathless, she couldn't stop thinking about the connection that had formed between them. It wasn't just the dramatic gestures, the blanket, the late-night walk, the sparkling ring, it was something deeper, subtle, yet undeniable. From the very first moment she had seen him outside in the cold, there had been a pull, an invisible thread linking their lives in a way she had never experienced before. It was in the little moments that she began to understand just how profound their connection was. The way he remembered the smallest details about her, the way she liked her tea, the exact spot she preferred to stand by the window, the way she laughed when caught off guard. Each gesture, each thoughtfulness, revealed layers of intimacy that grew quietly but steadily between them. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, skipping the awkwardness of new acquaintances and diving straight into the comfort of familiarity, the kind that only comes when two people are inexplicably attuned to each other's rhythms. She began to notice how their presence alone seemed to alter the world around them. Ordinary streets became backdrops for private smiles and shared glances, the mundane act of walking side by side became a dance of silent understanding. Even in silence, there was communication, an unspoken language that only they seemed to understand. It was as if the universe had conspired to align their paths, first through chance, then through choice, weaving together a story neither had anticipated but both had been waiting for. But it wasn't just the comfort and warmth that defined their bond, it was also the challenge. He encouraged her to step out of her comfort zone, to embrace vulnerability, and to trust not just him but herself. In return, she reminded him of the beauty in patience, empathy, and quiet reflection. They balanced each other in ways that were at once surprising and inevitable. Their connection was not just romantic, it was transformative. As days turned into weeks, the intensity of their bond became impossible to ignore. She realized that love, in its purest form, was more than just attraction or passion, it was a meeting of souls, a resonance that made two separate lives feel like pieces of a single puzzle. Every glance, every touch, every shared secret reinforced the sense that they had found something rare and unshakable. Even mundane routines carried new significance. A shared cup of coffee, a whispered joke, the comforting weight of his hand over hers, all became symbols of a love that had grown quietly but powerfully, rooted in mutual respect, trust, and understanding. She felt as though the person who had appeared at her doorstep shivering had always been meant to be a part of her life, and that their journey together was only just beginning. The unexpected connection that had started with a single act of kindness had blossomed into a profound love, one that changed how she saw the world, herself, and the future. It wasn't just about the proposal or the romantic gestures, it was about finding someone who could look at her, truly see her, and choose to stay, no matter how ordinary or extraordinary life became. In that moment, she understood, sometimes, love doesn't announce itself loudly, it arrives quietly, unexpectedly, and it changes everything. Sometimes, it isn't grand gestures or sweeping declarations that form the foundation of love, it's the small, seemingly insignificant acts that accumulate and leave an everlasting impact. For her and him, it all began with a simple moment. She noticed him shivering outside her door on a cold evening and offered warmth without hesitation. That single act of kindness didn't just bring him comfort in the moment, it set off a chain of events that would gradually weave their lives together in ways neither could have predicted. In the days that followed, the memory of that encounter lingered like a gentle echo in both their minds. Every small exchange, every thoughtful word, and every act of attentiveness became a building block for their connection. She began leaving little notes of encouragement and small gestures that showed she cared, even when they weren't together. He reciprocated with quiet acts of devotion, checking in, remembering her preferences, surprising her with tiny gifts or thoughtful gestures that spoke louder than words. Each small action was a thread that bound their hearts closer together, creating a fabric of trust, respect, and affection. It was in these subtle, daily moments that their love truly grew. A shared smile across a crowded room, a warm cup of tea offered without asking, a reassuring hand on the small of her back, all became symbols of devotion. They learned that love wasn't just about dramatic, life-changing events, it was also about being present in each other's lives, noticing the little details, and responding with care and understanding. Even mundane routines, walking together through a park, sharing a quiet meal, or laughing over an inside joke, gained significance because they were shared. The beauty of these small acts was that they required no words, no elaborate planning, no expectation of grandeur. Each gesture, no matter how minor, carried sincerity and thoughtfulness. Over time, the accumulation of these moments revealed the depth of their feelings. They realized that the love they were building wasn't fleeting or superficial, it was steady, dependable, and rooted in genuine connection. The small acts of kindness, attention, and affection had created a foundation so strong that nothing superficial could shake it. Even the challenges they faced became opportunities to strengthen their bond. Misunderstandings or moments of doubt were softened by their habit of caring for each other's feelings, a habit cultivated through countless small gestures of thoughtfulness. They discovered that love isn't just the big moments, it's the accumulation of everyday choices to show up for one another, to offer patience, understanding, and empathy. By the time he returned with a proposal, it was clear that the love they shared was not born overnight but carefully nurtured through countless small acts that spoke volumes. The kindness she had shown him on that cold night, the way he had responded with thoughtfulness and devotion, had blossomed into a love that was enduring and profound. They both understood that true love often begins quietly, in small moments, and grows through the care and attention invested in each other. Those simple acts, seemingly minor at the time, had sparked a lifetime of love, proving that even the smallest gestures can create the strongest bonds. There are moments in life when everything seems to pause, when time itself bends to highlight a single, profound realization. For her and him, that moment arrived slowly but unmistakably. It wasn't just the proposal, the promise of a shared future, or the romantic gestures that had led them to this point. It was the accumulation of experiences, shared glances, quiet conversations, and small acts of care that crystallized into a single, undeniable truth: their lives had changed forever, and there was no turning back. She remembered the first night he had appeared outside her door, shivering and vulnerable. At the time, she had acted on instinct, offering warmth without thinking twice. But that moment had become the first link in a chain of events that neither of them could have predicted. Each subsequent encounter, each thoughtful gesture, and each shared laugh had deepened their connection, gradually transforming an ordinary life into something extraordinary. By the time he returned with the proposal, she could feel the weight of every memory, every fleeting moment that had led them to this point. As he knelt before her, presenting the delicate ring, the reality of what was happening settled over her like a gentle wave. It was more than a proposal, it was the embodiment of everything they had built together. The warmth in his eyes, the vulnerability he had shown that first night, and the unwavering devotion he had demonstrated since then all converged in that single instant. She realized that love, true love, was not sudden or accidental, it was a process, a journey, and they had walked it together without even realizing it. In that suspended moment, she thought of all the ways her life had shifted since meeting him. Simple routines had taken on new meaning, mornings no longer felt ordinary, walks down familiar streets were now imbued with shared memories, and even quiet moments at home carried the gentle hum of connection. Every choice, every act of kindness, every smile and glance had contributed to the profound shift in her world. She recognized that her heart had changed, that her perspective had shifted, and that her future would never again be the same. For him, too, the realization was overwhelming. He had returned not just to propose, but to acknowledge the depth of the bond they shared, the mutual understanding and respect that had grown between them. He understood that life before her had been incomplete, and that the experiences, however small or fleeting, had prepared him for this moment. He knew that they were no longer just two individuals whose paths had crossed, they were a pair whose lives had intertwined, irrevocably and beautifully. As she accepted the proposal, a wave of clarity washed over them both. The world felt brighter, more vibrant, and full of possibilities. They were no longer bound by the uncertainty of chance encounters or fleeting moments, they were bound by choice, commitment, and love. In that instant, the realization hit them both, everything had changed, and yet, it was just the beginning. Their lives, once ordinary and separate, had merged into a shared journey filled with prom. Life has a way of surprising us, often in ways we never see coming. For them, what began as a chance encounter on a cold, unremarkable evening evolved into a story neither could have anticipated, a journey from uncertainty and shivering vulnerability to love, commitment, and a promise of forever. That night, when she found him trembling outside her door, neither of them realized that a simple act of kindness would set in motion a sequence of moments that would transform their lives completely. The journey wasn't marked by grand gestures alone, though those moments became milestones along the way. It was defined by the subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in their lives, the shared smiles, the quiet conversations, the small favors, the thoughtful attention to each other's needs. Each moment built upon the last, creating a foundation stronger than either could have constructed alone. It was as if life itself had carefully orchestrated their path, using these small, deliberate interactions to teach them patience, trust, and the beauty of growing together. He returned not merely with a proposal but with the culmination of all those moments, a tangible reflection of the bond they had nurtured. When he knelt before her, the weight of the journey they had shared, the laughter, the care, the mutual support, was encapsulated in that single gesture. It wasn't just about a ring or a promise, it was about acknowledging the shared history, the mutual understanding, and the emotional intimacy that had grown between them. Their journey had transformed them, shaping their hearts and minds into a space ready for love that was not fleeting, but enduring. Throughout this journey, they both learned invaluable lessons about connection and commitment. She realized that vulnerability could be a strength, that opening one's heart to another did not mean losing oneself but finding a deeper understanding of both love and life. He understood that true courage wasn't just in grand gestures, but in the consistent, patient, and caring acts that built trust over time. Together, they discovered that love is less about dramatic declarations and more about showing up, day after day, for one another. Their story illustrates how the smallest moments can evolve into life-altering experiences. A blanket offered on a cold night became a metaphor for protection and care. Conversations and shared laughter became the threads weaving their hearts together. A simple promise transformed into a lifelong commitment, showing that love is not an instant revelation but a journey, one that unfolds gradually, carefully, and beautifully. As they looked forward to the future, the magnitude of their journey became clear. What had started as a single act of kindness had grown into an enduring love story, a testament to patience, connection, and the power of choice. The chance encounter that could have been forgotten had instead led to a profound transformation of their lives. They realized that every moment, every decision, and every gesture had contributed to the creation of something timeless, a promise that would guide them through life together, hand in hand, heart to heart. Love often teaches lessons that no book, lecture, or experience can fully convey, and for them, the journey from a chance encounter to a lifelong commitment became a powerful teacher. That one cold night, when she had found him shivering outside her door, was the first lesson, that compassion, even in the smallest gestures, can ignite profound connections. Offering warmth without hesitation wasn't just an act of kindness, it was a demonstration of how empathy can bridge the gap between strangers, transforming a fleeting moment into the foundation for something extraordinary. From that night onward, their story became a series of lessons on trust, patience, and emotional openness. She learned that opening her heart to someone, even when it carried a risk, could lead to profound rewards. Vulnerability, she realized, was not a weakness but a form of courage, one that allowed people to truly connect on a level deeper than surface impressions. Every act of attentiveness, every shared conversation, and every gesture of care reinforced the idea that love grows in spaces of trust and understanding. He, too, discovered invaluable lessons. He saw firsthand that love requires not just feelings but action, the small, consistent choices to show up, to support, and to honor the other person's needs. He learned that patience and empathy are as crucial as passion, that the strength of a relationship often lies in quiet, persistent acts of commitment rather than dramatic declarations. Even the challenges they faced together, misunderstandings, moments of doubt, and the ordinary struggles of life, became opportunities to strengthen their bond, teaching them that perseverance and mutual respect are essential for enduring love. Together, they learned that kindness is a language understood universally, one that transcends words and manifests in thoughtful gestures. From the blanket on a cold night to the small surprises, shared laughter, and reassuring touch, each act of kindness reinforced the sense of security and belonging. They understood that love thrives not just in moments of grandeur but in the daily choices to care for each other genuinely and attentively. Their journey also taught them the value of awareness, recognizing the impact of their actions, acknowledging the needs of the other person, and appreciating the beauty in ordinary moments. They realized that a life filled with empathy, patience, and understanding is richer and more meaningful than one focused solely on personal gain or convenience. The lessons extended beyond romance. They shaped how they approached friendships, family, and the wider world, fostering a sense of compassion and mindfulness that became a guiding principle in their lives. Ultimately, the most important lesson they learned was that love is transformative. It changes perspectives, encourages growth, and inspires the best versions of oneself. From a single act of kindness to a lifetime of shared experiences, they discovered that love, rooted in compassion and nurtured through small, consistent gestures, can teach more about life than any other experience. Their story became a testament to the enduring power of love and the life lessons it imparts, that empathy, patience, and genuine connection have the power to change lives forever.